Mustafa Al Kadhimi, alternatively spelt Mustafa Al Kadhimi, is an Iraqi-British politician, diplomat and bureaucrat currently serving as the Prime Minister of Iraq since May 2020. Kadhimi is also the 43rd Prime Minister since the country's independence in 1932 and the 4th overall under the 2005 constitution. He is also a former director of the Iraqi National Intelligence Service, originally appointed in June 2016. Al-Kadhimi, who studied law at Al-Turat University, was responsible for reforming the Iraqi National Intelligence Service to be more effective and to meet international standards. He oversaw ending the politicization of intelligence action, implementing advanced methods to intelligence gathering and analysis, and setting priorities to broaden the scope of the work of the National Intelligence Service. Under his leadership, the agency expanded its remit, particularly in counterterrorism, both internally and abroad, playing a vital role in Iraq's fight against the ISIL, also known as Daesh. During his tenure, he established links with scores of countries and bureaus working within the US-led Federation against ISIL. Al-Kadhimi was a vocal opponent against the Saddam Hussein government. He escaped Iraq in 1985 for Iran then Germany, before settling in the United Kingdom, and lived in exile for several years, eventually becoming a citizen of the UK. He is not affiliated with any of the Iraqi political parties. After the 2003 American-led invasion of Iraq, Al-Kadhimi returned to Iraq and co-founded the Iraqi Media Network, in his role as director of the Iraq Memory Foundation in London between 2003 and 2010, an organization that was established to document the crimes of Saddam Hussein's regime. Al-Kadhimi managed a team spread across various countries, including Iraq. He oversaw the documenting of testimonies and collating footage from victims of the dictatorship. He was a columnist and an editor of the Iraqi version of Al-Monitor and contributed to various outlets. He has also published a number of books and studies. Al-Kadhimi was also the senior editor of Iraq's Newsweek magazine for 3 years. Following months of protests that broke out across Iraq in October 2019 and the resignation of Prime Minister Adel Abdul Mahdi and his cabinet, Mustafa Al-Kadhimi became a leading contender for the premiership. Al-Kadhimi and Haider al-Abadi went to Riyadh in 2017. Al-Kadhimi made headlines when he was seen in a long embrace with his friend Mohammed bin Salman. On the 9th of April 2020, he was named by President Barham Saleh as Prime Minister designate, the third person tapped to lead the country in just 10 weeks as it struggled to replace a government that fell last year after months of protests. Kadhimi was nominated by President Barham Saleh, state television reported, shortly after the previous designated Prime Minister, Adnan al-Zurfi, announced he was withdrawing having failed to secure enough support to pass a government. After nearly 6 months of political negotiations, Iraq's parliament confirmed Al-Kadhimi as Prime Minister of Iraq on the 6th of May 2020. Before entering office, Al-Kadhimi said his government would be a government that finds solutions to Iraq's many problems, and not a crisis-ridden government. He promised early elections and vowed Iraq would not be used as a battleground by other countries. He assumed office on the heels of major upheavals in Iraq, large protests, falling oil prices, and the COVID-19 pandemic. Upon assuming power, Al-Kadhimi promised to guide Iraq through a serious financial crisis, saying the state treasury was nearly empty after years of waste and declining oil prices. Al-Kadhimi's cabinet vowed to reduce public spending and audit salaries granted to millions of Iraqis but retracted the plan after public criticism. In August 2020, he hired hundreds of unemployed Iraqis at the Ministry of Defense, but not enough to halt sit-ins outside other public sector offices demanding jobs. He has few allies in government and parliament is heavily dominated by pro-Iran MPs who have balked at his references to protester demands. He has also struggled to fulfill his promise to bring the security forces to justice who were allegedly responsible for the deaths of nearly 600 protesters and activists since October 2019. In addition, Al-Kadhimi pledged to investigate the recent murders of journalists and political activists that have increased in the past year. But no one has been brought to justice yet. Iran and its allied Fatah alliance opposed Al Kadhimi's appointment. In April 2020, Kataib Hezbollah, an Iraqi militia with close links to Iran and ties to the Popular Mobilization Forces, published a statement that accused Al Kadhimi of being culpable for the deaths of its leader Abu Mahdi al-Mohandes and Iranian General Qasem Soleimani and charged him with working with the United States. In the meantime, Al Kadhimi directed the Counter-Terrorism Service to investigate rocket attacks